Hi there, my name is Brian Eschbacher, and I'm the Director of Bond and Mill Levy Programs with Denver Public Schools, and I'm also a Stapleton resident.
Hi Stapleton friends, I'm Shannon Fitzgerald and I'm the Director of Choice and Enrollment Services here at Denver Public Schools. We're here and we're very excited to help support you with the data and the information that you need as you venture down this journey in really examining the current enrollment system for elementary school students within Stapleton. We are very eager to be your thought partners on this and provide you with whatever data and support you need to help your process.
And so the purpose of this video is to give you introductory information about the choice systems and about the enrollment data that's going on in Stapleton today. This video is not meant to be comprehensive. It's meant to be accompanied by a reference packet that we provided to the Stapleton United Neighbors. So it might be helpful to have that with you, and that contains details on everything we're going to talk about today in terms of enrollment data and choice systems, transportation maps, board policies, everything that you'll need to help make a proposal to the DPS Board of Education this fall. So let's start by getting grounded on the geographic area and the schools that are in the focus of today's discussion. So currently the Stapleton shared boundary starts in the west with Quebec Avenue and has a portion of East Park Hill. It goes along Montview to the south, and then it comes up and follows the city boundary along 26th Avenue over to Moline Street, which is the eastern edge. It then bends around and comes up Havana and extends north of I-70 all the way up towards the Arsenal and the northern edge of the city limit. And this includes Conservatory Green. And so you see I-70 cutting across the middle. In addition, there are 5 schools that are in this boundary. The first that was built was Westerly Creek, and then Bill Roberts was built a few years after that. And then in recent years, Swigert-McAuliffe was built in the Central Park West neighborhood in 2011. There is Isabella Bird Community School, which is being built in the Bluff Lake neighborhood. That program is opening this year, but the building will open in 2014. And there's also High Tech Elementary, which is opening in the Conservatory Green neighborhood in 2014. All of the details on the capacities of these schools can be found on slide 4 in the reference materials. So we also wanted to look at the enrollment increases and the corresponding capacity increases in this area over the last few years. So as more homes have been built in Stapleton, more students are attending schools in DPS and specifically in this area over those few years as well. So with all the builds of homes, that's going to continue to go on for the next few years as they build out primarily north of I-70. However, DPS has also tried to meet that demand by building several schools over the past few years. As I mentioned, we built Swigert-McAuliffe in 2011, and that added a bunch of capacity. That lasted us for a few years, but now this year we're opening Isabella Bird, which will also give us more capacity. Next year we're opening High Tech Elementary School, which will give us more capacity. And this will last us for a few years, and we anticipate that somewhere around 2017 we'll need to build more capacity to meet the growing demand, likely north of I-70, and DPS is prepared to do that. And the details of the enrollment are on slide 4 of your packet, and there's 2 other factors to keep in mind. The first is the choice out factor, and there's 2 ways that this is made up. First are those students that are homeschooled, they attend private school, or they attend a neighboring district. They're not included in this enrollment figure at all. The second are the students that attend a Denver public school but do not attend one of the 5 schools that we spoke about on the first slide. Those students, and there's about 20% of them, they attend schools such as Polaris, Odyssey, and Denver Language School. They total up about 20% of the students, and they're also not included in this blue line. Now finally, one of the challenges that we've had is with the rapid increases in enrollment, and so there's been very little choice in from surrounding neighborhoods to these schools. And we think that that will probably continue for a few more years as well. Now details on the choice out can be found on slide 5 of your reference material. Finally, another aspect to look at are the individual growth trends within each neighborhood in this area. Now we really see that there are 3 types of growth. There are those neighborhoods that are growing rapidly. And so some examples of that are Conservatory Green, Central Park West, and Bluff Lake. These neighborhoods are very new, and so we're seeing many more kindergarten students each year. And so those are really trending up. The next type of neighborhood are those neighborhoods that have been open for 5 to 7 years. We've now seen large increases in those kindergarten age students, but now they're starting to level off. And so think of Eastbridge, Westerly Creek, and East Park Hill. So they had high growth, but now they're starting to level off. And finally, there are those neighborhoods that are the oldest neighborhoods in Stapleton. So classic Stapleton and South End Stapleton. Those are the areas around Aviator Pool and Puddle Jumper Pool. Those are neighborhoods that we saw strong increases. We've now saw it level off for a few years, and now we're even starting to see declines in the number of kindergarten-age students living in those areas. And all the details for each of the neighborhoods for the past few years and a projection of what their enrollment would be in 2017 for kindergarten-age students that can be found on slide 6 of the reference guide.
Okay, what we're going to talk about now is exactly the work that you all will need to be doing when thinking about how you want your enrollment system in Stapleton to work for elementary school kids. Before we do that, I want to explain a little bit about enrollment systems in general and some of the components that go into them. So choice systems have 3 main components to them, and this is any enrollment system anywhere within the U.S., right? The first one is enrollment guarantees. The second one is the transportation that's offered, and the third one is how schools admit kids to their school. Enrollment guarantees essentially is from the perspective of the district. So what this means is that there are state laws in Colorado that say Denver Public Schools must guarantee a seat to every student that resides within our boundaries. So every single kid who lives in Denver, we must send or guarantee, if you will, a spot at some school somewhere. Now, here in DPS, we go one step further to make sure or to attempt very much to get this guaranteed school very close to where the student lives for sake of ease for the family. The second component that goes into an enrollment system, to any given enrollment system, is the whole transportation factor. And state law does not mandate that we have to transport any kind of kid anywhere, with the exception of making sure that we're giving reasonable access to them. But here in DPS, we do have a board policy that states for us which kids get transportation. And this is something that you're going to need to consider as you think about the proposal for what your enrollment system looks like. So our board policy around transportation currently states that if an elementary school student lives 1 mile or more from their assigned boundary school and they are attending that assigned boundary school, they will get a bus. And so we do transport students who live more than 1 mile away from school, or if they need to cross a major intersection. At the middle school level, that jumps to 2.5 miles, and at high school, it's 3.5 miles. So again, when we think about who's going to be going where in this enrollment system, if there is going to be a new enrollment system, one of the components that will need to be addressed is who's going to be getting transportation in that system. The last component, and this is the most complex of the 3 components, is how schools admit kids to each of the schools. So each and every school within Denver Public Schools has a predetermined way for figuring out which kids are going to come to their school. As you know, many of our schools have supply that does not meet the demand for that particular school, and when that does come into play, we do have the school choice process, and the first round of that process is lottery-based. When determining how to structure that lottery, there are 3 subcomponents that go into how it is that we're going to figure out which kids are going to be going to these schools. I want to dig into each of these so that there's a good, thorough understanding of what the different possibilities are for you as you consider the different schools within Stapleton and how they admit kids. A good example of an allocation is DSST Stapleton. And as some of you might know, DSST Stapleton as a school very much values having a diverse mix of kids within their school based on socioeconomic status. So what they do is they earmark or reserve or allocate 40% of their seats in their lottery for students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. And how this works is essentially if they have 100 seats to offer, they will set aside 40 of those seats, run for kids only, and the only kids who participate in that lottery are students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. They run that lottery, assign those kids, and then the remaining 60 seats go to a general lottery in which anyone can participate. And so that is how an allocation works. The purpose of an allocation in any given school is to manufacture or sort of predetermine how your student population may work. As a side note, currently we have only around 10 schools or so within Denver Public Schools who use any kind of allocation. The vast majority of them do so based on FRL status, and they are all charter schools. The second component that goes into which kids are going to be assigned to a particular school are guarantees. And a guarantee is essentially the school stating openly that they will guarantee enrollment to a certain type of student. Now, not every single, but almost every single guarantee within Denver Public Schools is based on geography. And the best example that I can give for this is our boundary system. So when you hear the word boundary, boundary means guarantee. So a boundary school, an example of a boundary school within our system is, for example, Park Hill Elementary School. Park Hill Elementary School guarantees that every student who resides in the Park Hill boundary may attend that school. Now, in addition to guarantees, we also have priorities. And priorities are nothing more than just thinking about how you would line up applicants in a line to figure out who's going to come first, second, third, and fourth, insofar as filling the seats that a school might have available. A great example of priorities are the vast majority of DPS schools prioritize siblings of their current students higher than kids who don't have siblings. And again, that's in the spirit of keeping families together and making sure kids are getting in and in being able to accommodate a family situation like that. In Stapleton, currently at the elementary schools in Stapleton, none of the elementary schools have any guarantees. So for example, Swigert, Bill Roberts, Westerly Creek, and the new schools as well, they do not guarantee enrollment to any type of student. However, they do prioritize all of their applicants in a way that is in line with the Board of Education priorities, or policies, excuse me. So that is the difference between a guarantee and a priority. Understand that we need your help in this. We're here to support you along the way and give you whatever data that you need to help devise a good, meaningful proposal that is exactly what the Stapleton community is wanting. But when you do go about making this proposal, please bear in mind the things that we've talked about today, meaning you will need to be considering the guaranteed enrollment, meaning what are we going to guarantee every student within Stapleton. Please also consider the transportation, and lastly, you will need to specify exactly who's going to be getting into what school by virtue of allocations, guarantees, and priorities. Good luck.